Good morning, Stewart's Chapel. Brother Don Pierson here, and Don Counts, and we're at the Harris Farm, and this is Tuesday's devotion. And we're going to be looking at a woman named Esther. In Esther chapter 4, verse 13, and we'll read down through verse 1 of chapter 5. And Mordecai told them to answer Esther. Do not think in your heart that you will escape in the king's palace any more than all the other Jews. For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place. But you and your father's house will perish. Yet who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Then Esther told them to reply to Mordecai, Go gather all the Jews who are present in Shushan, and fast for me, neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will fast likewise. And so I will go to the king, which is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther commanded him. Now it happened on the 3rd day that Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the king's palace, across from the king's house, where the king sat on his royal throne in the royal house, facing the entrance of the house. Well, I don't know what you know about the book of Esther. The book of Esther is another one of those books where God's people, the Israel, has been taken captive and taken captive to a strange land. And this Gentile king basically has a beauty contest looking for a queen. Now, he already had queens, had many queens. He's looking for another one. And Esther, well, she wins. Esther is picked out of all of the others as the most beautiful. And the queen falls in love with Esther's beauty, but also with her heart. She's pure heart, but she hasn't told the queen what is her origin. Now, I'm surprised that the king doesn't know her origin, but evidently he doesn't. Well, there was a man in the kingdom named Mordecai, who was her uncle, who had basically helped raise her. But there was another man that was high up in the king's forces that, well, he wasn't a good man. He hated the Jews. He hated the Jews because of Mordecai, but he hated the Jews. And he had worked it his way where he had convinced the king to have all the Jews killed. And that's what the setting is. So Mordecai and the Jews, they're all fasting and praying, but Esther, she's up there in the palace living well and totally oblivious to what's going on. And Mordecai stands in front of her basically and says, hey, you need to finish well, because if you don't finish well, if you don't do what is right, you and the rest of your family will cease to be. Pretty strong words. And evidently it was a word from God, because Esther receives it and she does what is right. She puts her own life at risk. Now the rest of the story you know, and God grants favor to her, and God saves and redeems his people once again, because Esther did what was right. She finished a course. Now there's many more other parts of Esther's life, I'm sure, after this moment. The Bible doesn't record them, but we do know at this moment she did well, and because she did well, God's people were spared. God had put her where she was for this time. God has put you where you are for such a time as this. Love you, Stewart's Chapel.